Hello trainers, Sharkoon here with the next in my series of interviews with PvP trainers in the Pittsburgh region. Tonight's guest is RetrocityX, who is a very prominent PvP player whom I've battled in a number of tournaments. He's currently the number 5 ranked player in the Pittsburgh region. Please forgive the video quality. He told me as we were getting started that the camera on his laptop hadn't been used in a number of years and he'd had a piece of tape over it before this. So the video isn't the highest quality, but the audio comes through well, and I think it's a great conversation. After the interview, Retro and I did 3 Nightmare Cup prep battles, and I will tack those videos on with a voiceover at the end of the interview. It was a great discussion with Retro. Thank you for tuning into this video, and if you like this type of content, please take a moment and hit the like and subscribe to this channel to help me spread the word about Pokemon Go PvP. Thanks for watching, and without further delay, here is the interview. Right, hello trainers, Sharkoon here with the next in my series of conversations / interviews with some of the PvP enthusiasts in our region, in the Pittsburgh Pokemon Go region. My guest tonight is Retrocity, who is currently, as I'm looking at the rankings, sitting at number 5 in the community rankings on the Sylph Road. He and I have battled several times at different tournaments around. So I wanted to pick his brain, as I have been doing, about his history with Pokemon Go and how he prepares for PvP. So welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. Let's start out, as I have been, go through your history with Pokemon Go, when you started, how you got into it. Are you a Pokemon fan who played other Pokemon games before this? Did you come at it from a different angle? Give us your Pokemon journey.
So I've been playing, I guess, since the launch day in July of 2016. It's kind of funny because I was kind of keeping tabs on the game during its development, but not like watching intently, and I just happened to check literally maybe the day before it was released that the release date was that next day, and I was pretty excited that it was just good timing. But no, I actually I started back with the original games on Game Boy back when they came out, and I played several generations, I think up through Gen 3. And then that's kind of where I dropped off for a while. I never got a Nintendo DS initially, so that's kind of where I got cut off. And I played some of the other games on, the side games on Nintendo 64 and GameCube and whatnot. It's funny actually though, because once I started playing Pokemon Go, I actually went out and bought a 3DS, and then the new when Pokemon Sun and Moon came out, I went out and bought Pokemon Moon. So kind of helped me get back more into the main games as well.
Did you get a Switch for Pokemon Let's Go?
Not yet, but it's going to be coming for the new gen coming up.
It's called Sword and Shield or something?
Sword and Shield, yeah.
I never played any Pokemon games before this one. I'm a little older than you, so I was a video gamer back the original NES and even before with Atari and television in that era.
Yeah.
I just saw some articles about the AR aspects of the game and figured I'd give it a try. And I played for a few months when the game first came out, but I quit for a year. And then when I saw some other articles about, they're introducing trading, they're planning to introduce PvP, I'm like, well, let me get back into this. And I've been playing pretty heavy for the last year and a half or so.
Yeah, I think they've done a good job implementing the new features as they've come out. In some ways, I kind of wish some were around a little sooner than what they were, just because some people have dropped off. But I think what you've said, there have been a lot of players who have taken breaks and then come back as they've seen new content be added to the game that, adds more depth and, kind of creates more than just, walking around and catching. Now you have the raids, you have the PvP, you have the trading. So you kind of can cater to different interests that everybody has.
Have you ever played any other competitive video games or gone to other tournaments and things besides Pokemon Go?
Not a whole lot. Back when the original games were out, I used to go to the trading card game league that was at Toys R Us weekly. Back whenever, so I played pretty intensely, I guess, in that sense, but never really on like a serious tournament level. But I really wasn't, old enough to be able to find like the bigger tournaments and stuff at that time.
You're not a Magic the Gathering player?
No, I have many friends that play, so they ask me. So I think eventually I'll probably give it a shot to try, but not yet. I've done some other online stuff, but nothing like competitively. Maybe Smash Brothers a little bit, but I've gotten into like World of Warcraft, which not in the sense of competitive gaming, but it does get pretty. It can be pretty intense.
That would suck you in.
Yeah, with the rating and stuff, it can get a little time consuming.
Well, one of the reasons I like to do these interviews is to pick people's brains about PvP and how other competitive and successful players go about putting their teams together and developing their strategies. So tell us a little bit about how you approach PvP and maybe what resources you use to try to figure out what are the best Pokemon. Do you get out spreadsheets and do the number crunching yourself? Do you look at YouTube? Do you go to some of the websites? How do you go about preparing for PvP?
So I definitely like to use the Silverina Reddit page for a lot of information. I kind of usually will start there, like say for when a new cup is announced. I kind of use that as the basis. There's a lot of various websites that have popped up that allow you to simulate battles, check IVs for where they fall potentially on a scale of what's the best and what's the worst for PvP if you have multiple of one Pokemon. I also I like to read up on Discord and have discussions with people that I know, see what they think.
Are you part of any of the dedicated PvP Discords that are doing worldwide remote tournaments and things like that?
So I am on the one PvP Discord. I haven't participated in any remote tournaments yet, but I kind of use it as a just a place to also pick the brains of people. Read. I love to read and observe what other people are saying. So even if I'm not, maybe actively always engaging in discussion, I really like to see what other people are, thinking, kind of form my like thoughts based off, what they're doing, and then go out and, try it myself.
There's a lot of information flying around on those Discord channels.
Yeah, it can get very intense, but I think there are some good resources out there that are very helpful and, not so intensely in depth, for people who are trying to get in to PvP, but, not be overwhelmed as well. So I like there are certain things I won't tell people, oh, you have to go check ranks immediately if they're trying to get into PvP. That's, I try to, build baby steps, take one step at a time.
Yeah.
If you get to that point where that's a huge deal to you, then we can, take a look at that.
How have you found the aspect of it, the hunting gathering aspect of it, where sort of the new cups are announced and then the community at large starts saying, oh, this Pokemon is going to be good, that Pokemon is going to be good, the quote-unquote meta. I have found it interesting and given, for me, the other aspects of the gameplay more meaning in terms of when I go out raiding or out just looking for Pokemon now, I'm looking at it a different way in terms of what I think is good to keep or what I'm hunting for. How have you found that aspect of it? Have you been hoarding since the beginning and you have one of every Great League Pokemon ready to go, or are you struggling like some of us to put together teams for these things?
So I definitely hoard. I am actually right now. I think I'm at 2000 of 2000 after there were the Groudon raids earlier today. So I'm always trying to transfer stuff, but I'm pretty always up against that cap.
Yeah.
I kind of was fortunate in some for some of those legacy move sets that are really coveted that I was just lucky enough to hang on to some of those, and they were under, say, for Great League, that 1500 threshold. But you can't have it. You can't have everything.
Yeah.
Um, but I very much enjoy, looking at it. It's really changed how you look at everything that you catch too. Because you wonder, okay, will this be good for PvP, or versus just is this something I need to fill, just to catch this Pokemon, or is it something important for rating?
Well,
It's a whole new dynamic.
you almost have to choose where you're going to focus your efforts and your resources. I'm lucky enough that I live in Cannonsburg, and we have a pretty dedicated raid group here. So I can usually rely on being able to find some other people to do the raids. So I don't necessarily have to have the maxed out raid type Pokemon at 3 or 4 thousand CP and completely maxed out. So I'm having to do these level 5 raids with 2 people and max everything out. The group I raid with coordinates pretty well, so I can usually find 4 or 5 people so that if I have the second tier counters for the raid bosses, I can sneak in there and get the level 5 raids completed. If somebody didn't have that a big group that they were working with to do the raiding and had to like completely devote their resources to maxing out their raid Pokemon, I think they'd be really hamstrung in trying to put together teams for PvP because it's almost 2 distinct sets of Pokemon. Like if you have your Pokemon maxed out for raiding, they're not going to be good for at least not Sylph tournament Great League Pokemon. So it's a challenge.
No, I fully agree. It's very it's a very big challenge to determine what to power up and what not. And I think for a lot of us, the Pittsburgh Pokemon Go Discord's very, very well made, very helpful for rating. And I think it really, benefits us to be able to, devote more resources towards, PvP just
Yep.
because of, you know, and the Stardust cost, for PvP, you see how quick it goes down if you want to add
Yeah.
secondary moves to things. And
I'm up against rare candy right now. I built up a little Stardust. Rare candy is my hurting commodity right now. Um, Tell me a little bit about your experience with actual participation in the tournaments. How have you found it? How fun has it been for you? What have you found challenging? How have your interactions been?
so I think it's been very good so far. What I really like, there's the competitive element of the tournaments, which is fun, especially when you see the same people come monthly to each tournament. You know who you've played before, who you've beaten, who you've lost to. So there's that. You want to see how you stack up against. Especially if you lose to somebody one month, you kind of come in and you say, okay, I hope I get to play them again, and I want to see if I can beat them this time. Uh, and I really think the social element has been very, important towards growing PvP. I know there's been some struggles getting, you know, gauging a lot of interest amongst some players who may be more into raiding or the catching element. So I think stressing that social aspect, how much fun it is to, gather with a big group and, play, just see how everybody does. the rankings are fun, but I think it's more fun to, have a good time and, meet new people, see what everybody else, comes up with for their team, especially for these cups where, you're limited to certain select types.
Well, I feel the same way. I've met a lot of really cool people at the tournaments I've gone to. You and I met at a tournament. I had never met you before.
Yep.
Uh, and it's just it's more fun than I was expecting it to be. My adrenaline gets going a little bit when I'm in an intense battle, and it is fun to kind of make new relationships and see repeat customers coming back and go, oh, he got me last time. I want to try to get him this time. Or, oh, look, there's some new people. And going to different ones, because I've gone to a couple out in Monroeville and a number out in where I met you in the West Hills and one in the South Hills. And it's different groups of people at each one with some overlap. So I really find it interesting, and I've gotten into it way more than I expected to. I think I made the mistake of that first Boulder Cup one. I almost accidentally was able to win it because I don't think everybody was yet up to speed on exactly how to do them, and I snuck through there, and that kind of fired my interest to say, oh, okay, I can win one of these things. Now I'm really going to get into it.
Yeah, I think we played in that first Boulder Cup in the
We did.
championship,
We
and
played in the
it,
final
it was
round.
a it was a very learning experience for everybody there, and just kind of seeing how the meta was. I think at that point I hadn't really, I don't know for you as well, but hadn't really looked and done much research on the full meta at that point as much as I did for say, some of the cups that followed afterwards.
Well, the number of resources out there that were focused on providing information about the meta and tips about PvP was drastically smaller at that time than it is now. I mean, my YouTube channel, and there's 20, 30, 40 YouTube people out there now doing practice videos and tips about the meta and looking at different Pokemon. But my video that has the highest hits of anyone I've put out, I've been doing this channel for a month, is one where I was just like, Bronzong, is it good? Is it bad? That seems to be there's an audience for that now. But in January, when that first tournament was, there was a couple of people who were out there talking about it, but information wasn't just flying around like it is now.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh, well, one of the other reasons I've been trying to do this YouTube channel and push these videos out is to try to promote interest among people who might be Pokemon Go fans or Pokemon Go players, but who haven't done PvP yet. So, what would you tell to a Pokemon Go player who might be on the fence or thinking about, well, maybe should I go to a tournament or is it fun or not? What would you do to try to persuade them to come and try it out?
So I think first and foremost, I think we touched on the social aspect, the fun aspect. Uh, all of my experiences so far, everybody that I've met, because there were people that I knew prior to the cups from, raids, community days,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's been a lot of people that I've met through the PvP tournaments. Uh, Everybody's very pleasant. Everybody's very welcoming, helpful, willing. If you've seen how many people have, you know, helped new players who showed up to their first tournament, not knowing a whole lot, directing them where to go to, get information, helping them with team setup, trading them Pokemon that they can use. I think the community overall has been very, receptive and inviting to new players. So for anybody who's, on the fence, if they're nervous or, if they may have like social anxiety perhaps or anything, about showing up and not knowing anybody, the community is very, very welcoming to new players.
I think there was a perfect example of it at the tournament last Sunday that you and I were both at. There was a young couple who showed up, and I think it was their first PvP tournament, and they didn't know really about Sylph accounts, and one of them was on Discord, the other wasn't, and so they were they were struggling to kind of get logged in and get set up in Sylph and get their teams programmed in, and they kept kind of apologizing because we were ready to get started, and it was being held up a little bit while we got them kind of logged in and worked out some other technical details. And without fail, everybody around kept saying, "Look, don't apologize. We want new people to come. Let us help you get set up here. We're glad you're here. We want you to participate, and we want you to come back next time. So don't worry about the fact that this is being held up for 10 minutes because we're trying to get you set up in the system. We want you here." So I thought that was just a good example of, nobody was sitting there like, let's get started. Come on, hurry up, get them out of here. There was nothing like that. We were all really trying to get them in and keep their enthusiasm level up because we wanted them to come back again.
Yeah, and absolutely. I think if somebody has a good time, they're more likely to come back again, and they're more likely to tell other people they play with, "Oh, I had a fun time. You should come next time too. You should give it a shot." So,
And
and
and I think your point is a good one. There's some different aspects to what people can take from it too. I mean, there's the leaderboards that we're all kind of waiting for the regional invites and waiting to see who's going to get them, and talking about all that stuff, and watching the Sylph announcements. But there's also other aspects to it, particularly the social aspect you talked about, and people are bringing silly prizes and trophies and pins and stuff. There's just a lot of different little fun aspects to it that I think just make it an interesting and enjoyable experience.
yeah, and one other thing I think is important too is I think a lot of players get caught up with the raid meta, where a lot of times it's this legendary, Machamp, Tyranitar, and you use a team of 6 of those. With PvP, there are so many Pokemon that you can use and actually have success with. So you can use a lot that are your favorites that maybe somebody told you, "Oh, you shouldn't raid with that. It's not good." I had somebody who likes Altaria, and they had no idea that Altaria was really, really good for PvP, so that excited them a lot.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that because I'm a little too old to have come up with Pokemon as a thing when I was growing up. So I heard of Pokemon and I saw younger kids than me playing with Pokemon cards and stuff, but Pokemon was never my thing. But people probably your age and younger uh, came up playing Pokemon games like you did, and have their favorite Pokemon, and the PvP system has allowed a bunch of different Pokemon to have their moment in the sun. Stuff that before I was just deleting, transfer, transfer, transfer. I'm waiting for the normal meta where we're all fighting with Pidgey. Uh, so it just gives a whole reason to take a different look at a whole bunch of other Pokemon that might be sitting in your decks, or maybe that you were deleting before. The frustrating thing is when you read the thing about the next cup and see a Pokemon on there that's in the meta, and you're like, "Oh man, I had so many of those that I deleted them.
Yeah.
I transferred them." Well, I like to keep these not too long. So, is there anything else that you would tell to the audience of Pokemon Go players out there about PvP and your experience with it?
So I think I pretty much said, for the overall experience, I, really want to reiterate this, the social and fun aspect. There's the competitive element if you like to be competitive. So, there's a little something for everybody. Um, like you said, the leaderboards, everybody likes to see, where they stack up against other players in the Pittsburgh region, where you stack up globally. We're not in Buenos Aires where,
Those people in South
how many people.
America are hardcore about it, apparently.
So, And I think for cup preparation, uh, I think I know we talked a little bit earlier about that. Uh, I really like to, look at the meta, see what the popular picks are, but then also kind of look at some of the, off meta choices and see, what might be a good selection that, catches some people off guard. I
Well,
like
that
to
was one
try
thing
to,
I wanted to ask you. How deep do you get into it? Like I have varied, like you can kind of look at it and see the meta and go, okay, I like that one, that one, that one. I understand the type matches, and this one will be good against that type. That one will be good, and it looks like I have good coverage, so I'm gonna bring this team. You can go at that level, or you can dive way down in it, and I've been down in it the last couple of cups, where you can do the spreadsheets and go to PV Poke and see, okay, with one shield and no shields, and here's the numeric score, and this one wins with this much HP left, and you can get way down in the weeds, and sometimes I've gone down a rabbit hole, and I don't know if that's the best way for me to do it, but how detailed do you go in analyzing your teams and your Pokemon for PvP?
so I really, I like to try, most of the meta if I have them available and I can, power them up and, fairly easily, if it's something I'm on the fence about and it's a huge resource investment, I might not, unless I know it's something that's definitely going to be a use. But I really do like to experiment with, different choices to see like which ones fit, like, my play style in practice PvP matches. Um, I don't. I'll dive into say the simulated matches sometimes just to see if there's a matchup where I think something's a good off meta choice, perhaps that might counter a few things in the meta. See how it stacks up. Is it worth the investment, or am I gonna is it gonna am I gonna go into a match and it's gonna I'm just gonna shake my head and say that was a mistake.
Well, I'm going to bring this to a close now, and I want to thank you for agreeing to come on with me tonight, and uh, thank you for coming out to PvP, and thanks for the matches we've had.
And thank you very much.
All right. Okay, now as promised, here are three very preliminary Nightmare Cup prep matches between Retro and myself. We didn't even really exchange teams. We're just kind of throwing eligible Pokemon out there for our preliminary testing because Retro and I both just completed a Kingdom Cup last Sunday. So even though it's a little bit late, we're both just starting to get into the Nightmare Cup. And we both led with a Shadow Ball Legacy Hypno. And I think I ended up with Charge Move Priority here. So I beat him to the first Shadow Ball, but he beat me to the second one for some reason. I did survive the second with the Sliver, even without shielding, but he double shielded, so he got rid of my Hypno. I bring in Alolan Raichu, which I understand is a very good Pokemon. Didn't seem to be taking all that much from Confusion. Shield the Shadow Ball, obviously, and Raichu was able to take out Hypno. So he brings in Heracross, again another fighting type. I do not have a Heracross under 1500. I'm able to hit the Wild Charge and do very good damage to Heracross, so that was a decent matchup for Raichu. He brings in his Raichu. I'm able to get off one Wild Charge, and Wild Charge is such a great move on Raichu. And I get to the Thunder Punch first as well. So I'm able to sweep the last two with Raichu and take the first game of a 3-game set from Retro. So good game to Retro on that one. Second game, I'm just experimenting at this point. I pull in 3 different Pokemon just to test out what they do in a live battle situation. So I start with Xatu. he brings Eradicate. So this is a Confusion user, Psychic versus Eradicate, which is dark. As we were battling, he was talking, and he highly recommended Eradicate. I powered one up for Twilight, but I never really used it. It didn't make it to my team of 6, so I'm not that familiar with Eradicate. Obviously, his dark move does super effective to Xatu. Had to block it. Block the second one, so he's burned both of my shields already. I don't want to give up on Xatu that quickly. The flying move does decent damage, and at the expense of shield advantage, I'm able to take out the Eradicate. Here comes Hypno. I get to the Shadow Ball. He blocks. Would have been super effective. So his Hypno takes out my Xatu. I pull the Shiftry, because my other Pokemon was fighting, which I think would have just gone down quickly to Hypno. I don't have my Shiftry configured correctly, but his Razor Leaf was doing great damage to Hypno and took it out. He brings in Toxicroak and the Sludge Bomb. I'm out of shields, so with his Sludge Bomb, he just decimates the Hitmonchan. I take him out with Shiftry, but I only have a sliver of health left. He has a charge move ready on Hypno. So Retro takes the second game of the R3 game set. So good game again. And once again on the rematch, I just go in and pull 3 random Nightmare Pokemon just for testing. So I pull the Skuntank, Raichu, and Bronzong. And once again, even though we're just randomly throwing stuff at each other, great minds think alike, and we get the mirror match on Skuntank. As we learned, we did not have the same charge moves on it, so he uses a Crunch. I pull the Flamethrower. He blocks. I want to see how much damage that Flamethrower does, so I block here. Crunch was not super effective. So I get the Flamethrower in. And the Flamethrower does a nice amount of damage, I think more than Crunch. So I think in the mirror match, Flamethrower was the preferred attack over Crunch there. He brings Heracross. Finishes off my Skuntank. And I come with the Bronzong. And I think this Confusion just does massive damage against the fighting type. So Bronzong just takes out Heracross like there's no tomorrow. He blocks the Flash Cannon. I block the Wild Charge. I panicked a little bit there, didn't go back up to the Flash Cannon. I was afraid of the damage he was doing, and I get the Heavy Slam, so I do not take out the Raichu. I think the Flash Cannon would have taken it out, and I wouldn't have had to do that cleanup there with the Raichu. So, good game. I was able to take out 2 out of 3. Not a great test. We were just throwing any Pokemon we had against each other to do some preliminary nightmare testing. So I want to thank Retrocity for joining me tonight. I think it was a great conversation. A little longer than some of the other ones, but I think it was worth it. I didn't want to cut it down. I want to thank you for watching. If you've lasted to the end here, please remember to like and subscribe. And thanks again for watching.